Everyone, my name is Shikha Pathak. I am the Manager Awareness and Skill Building at SciSec. Welcome to today's webinar. This webinar is a part of SciSec's series titled Samgacchadhwam, May We All Progress Together. The objective is to cover various cybersecurity topics and provide conceptual overviews. So let me start with some ground rules. All the attendees of the webinar will be on mute by default. We will have a question and answer round at the end of the presentation. In case of any questions, you can share them on the chat window and the speaker will respond. We will be recording this webinar and the recording will be uploaded on SciSec's YouTube channel. So you can revisit this anytime later. This is the 31st webinar. The topic today is Attack and Defense Methodologies. Today's webinar is in partnership with Fortinet. As you know, today we have a two-part webinar. This session will be the theory session, which is open to all. Post this session, we will have the MCQ-based assessment. Based on your performance in today's session and your attendance as well, top 35 students will be selected to attend the demo session, that is the hands-on session, which is scheduled for 18th November. We will be sharing the details of the hands-on session with the selected students. Here is the list of our upcoming webinars. So please stay tuned to our social media pages. We are usually updating our LinkedIn, Twitter, and our website with the upcoming webinars. Do register and keep participating. In case you want to access the videos of our previous webinars, you can access them on SciSec's YouTube channel. As usual, we will be having an assessment, which will be at the end of this webinar. The assessment will be kept open for 60 minutes. The questions will be from the topics which are covered in this webinar. Those who get 7 or more than 7 marks out of 10 will be provided with a certificate of achievement and will also get a chance to participate in the hands-on and the demo session. But ensure that you have completed your learning minutes and joined this session and completed full attendance. Those who are unable to take the assessment will be given a certificate of participation. At the end of this assessment, you would also be asked to provide your feedback. Please share your genuine feedback and be assured that it will have no bearing on your assessment. Please ensure that you provide your details very clearly while taking the assessment, as a certificate will be generated based on these details only. We will be sharing the link of the assessment in the Q&A chat session. Please note that this assessment is open only to those who have participated in this webinar. Let me now take this opportunity to introduce today's esteemed speaker for the webinar. We have with us Mr. Valan Sivasubramanian. Mr. Valan is the Manager Systems Engineering at Fortinet, Bangalore. He's a skilled information security consultant with extensive experience in providing information security solutions to address the threats posed to today's evolving network environments. I'm sure with his extensive experience, he'll have a lot to share today, and we look forward to the webinar. Mr. Valan, over to you now. Yes, Mr. Valan, you can share your screen and you may start with your presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Shikha. Thanks for the intro. I'm just projecting my screen. Just a minute.
Sure, sir, sure.
Good evening and welcome you all for this session. This topic today is on attack and defense methodologies. I'm Valan Sivasubramaniam, joining from Fortinet. I handle system solution architecting in Fortinet based in Bangalore. So today I'll be running you through the attack and defense methodologies that is typically followed in securing IT infrastructure. Hope all are aware about the current challenges that we see in cybersecurity. So I will not elaborate. Possibly the news, the topics that you see and the breaches that are ongoing, right? Will give an idea of what is the kind of seriousness that we need to show towards this domain. So we'll just see the typical methodology that is used in this, and then how to effectively prevent ourselves from these kind of attacks. So today the topic will be two parts. One will go through the anatomy of attack, and we'll have a detailed look at kill chain. Typically, how an attack is performed and different steps, how it progresses, wherein the hacker is able to successfully take the data out. So we'll just see different stages and how they progress, and also we'll have a look at how to defend. Typically, at each stage, what is the possibility that we could kill the kill chain, like break the kill chain, so that we are able to protect the data that we have within our organizations. So hope I'm audible. Is it clear? Okay, I believe it's clear. I'll just go out with that. So in defense life cycle, we'll just check the methodologies that we could use to break the kill chain, as well as a security admin. When you are in charge of protecting an infrastructure, what are the steps you need to take to effectively defend yourself? So the skill chain that we call, right, we'll just get into details. So that there are different steps involved. Typically, if you look at any kind of a successful breach, you will just see 7 different stages it involves. So all the breaches you could categorize at what stage the data went out, or how successful they were. The typical methodology followed by hackers or people who are attempting this breach will follow these steps. So first they will start off with a reconnaissance, wherein they try to identify the target from where they are trying to take away the data. Second, once they do a recon, they will decide upon the weapon that's they could use to take the data out. Once they decide upon the tool to use, then they see how this particular tool could be delivered, so that they could infect this end user system, from where they could further progress moving internally or not take the data from those systems. And once the system, the payload is delivered to an end user, then they start their exploitation, wherein they get a remote command and control. They are able to take remote control of the systems and maybe use those systems for whatever activities they wanted them to be subjected. Then possibly this initial system on which the breach happened may not have the data which the hacker is looking at. So they may initially get into the network using one of the vulnerable systems, and then try to move around internally, leveraging their privileges, and then try to locate the actual data which they wanted to take away from this. So these are different stages involved in a typical hack or a breach. So there are different ways, right, and steps that are involved, and you could see these kind of breaches. Who are those who are behind them? So it could be a nation state where nation is conspiring against another nation, or it could be cyber criminals who are just doing it for the sake of monetary benefit. So there are different varieties of these. You could find different shades of these criminals who are involved in these activities, and the typical methodology will be the same. What is depicted here will be the methodology they follow, and the kind of tools they use to we'll just get to see in the coming slides. What are the different tools they use to achieve their objective, and this steps, the tools used as well as the methodology may be slightly differing, but essentially you will be able to see them adapting this. So let's see in detail about these individual steps. So first stage, recon, what is the initial stage? We'll see what happens there. So in the initial recon, the intention is to gather information about the target organization from where they are intending to take their data out. So while doing this recon, hackers use both technical and non-technical means to gather information. So what are these technical and non-technical means? So in non-technical means, they may rely upon the data that's available in public domain. It could be press release or data that is maintained in the social media, or it could be even the details that comes about an organization. So what is the reason happening around it? So those info also could give an idea about what's happening, and people could gather information. So when it comes to technical, people could getting into what is the IP range, what are the domains used within that organization, and they could get into further details. Possibly they could even look at the job postings from an organization whom they are targeting. So that could give a lead on what kind of technologies the organization is using, so that they will be able to narrow down their attacks. And also typically the IT administrators working within the organization may post certain data in the forum, technical forum, maybe asking for some help, or seeking some kind of solution from net. So those data that is shared in these media too could give rise to inputs for hackers. So they could source data from all these sources, and even a simple Google search could also reveal a lot of information. For example, even if they're targeting a website, they did not actually visit a website. They could just go to Google search, use the cache content to find out the information that's available on a particular website. So it may be a copy of what Google is maintaining. Even that will reveal a huge amount of information about the target whom the hacker is aiming at. And even case studies, wherein some organization may be okay with sharing a case study on a new technology deployment or a new rollout in the organization. Even those information will be handy for hackers to target the organization. Coming into active recon, these are all initial steps to get data in a passive manner. When it's active recon, what they actually do is they try to breach the organization or get into by connecting to the organization network. They use tools like scanners. There are port scanners which could say which kind of entry points are available at the network layer. So what all ports is using which they could get in. So which are the open ports? Organization may have certain ports open in the network just to let some traffic in. For example, if they are running a web server to have their organization presence on the net, they may have the web port 80 open so that anyone using a browser could connect to the web server, or port 443 to connect securely using HTTPS. So these kind of ports which are critical for business operations, maybe for business reasons they're available or they're made open on the internet. So hackers may scan to find which of these ports are open from internet and then try to get in through them. And these ports may reveal a lot more information than just the services. They may reveal the OS type. Just by trying to see the information that's available in a banner, they'll be able to figure out which version of the software an organization is running. So all these inputs may be very handy for hacker to narrow down their attack. So at the recon stage, they collect all this data that's available on the net, and then the attacker gets into researching on the vulnerabilities. For example, they had seen a specific version of a software like an Apache web server running in a customer's organization, and once they are able to narrow down on the version what this particular web server has, they could then narrow down the tool. So these are the steps involved in recon. So in the reconnaissance, they basically try to narrow down details of the whichever target they have identified. They try to find details about that organization, IP address, domain name, the kind of OS application they are using. So these are the activities that happen at the initial stage, the recon stage. So this recon will give input for the next stage. So next stage is weaponization. In weaponization, basically what they do is they try to narrow down on the weapon that they could use to attack the target organization. So based on the initial data that's gathered in the initial stage, in the recon stage, they will decide upon the weapon. For example, if it's a Linux-based platform running in Apache, then they may decide to use certain weapon. Instead, if it's a Windows-based server running a Windows software on it, an IIS web server, then the weapon what they choose may be slightly different. So based on the platform, to make their breach successful, they'll decide on the weapon. So this particular selection of weapon also depends on the vulnerabilities that is present. Maybe during the initial scan, if they find some zero-day threats that are there. So what are zero-day threats? Zero-day threats are the ones for which there are no patches available still. See, for example, all the software and the OS that we use always have certain weaknesses in them, vulnerabilities in them. Periodically, they get discovered, and the vendor releases a patch. So these zero-day vulnerabilities are the ones for which vendor has still not released a patch. So these are like pretty much open which is available for hacker. This may be very handy. So they pretty well, they'll know if they try that vulnerability or no, try to leverage it, they'll successfully get in, because there's no resolution available for those vulnerabilities till now. And they could decide to put together the tools on their own, or they could even rent exploit kits. Today there are exploit kits which are now available for a price online, which could be used to target end customers. And they could use additional tools like backdoors and command and control servers, wherein once they have these weapons installed in customer side, then they will have a remote access to this server. It could be different tools which will give them a remote access to the desktop, or whatever keynotes that are punched on the keyboard, it could give you a copy of them. So all those capabilities are present in these tools, and these kind of tools will be selected based on the hacker's need, like what is the objective they are trying to get in. And these weapons, they also select based on whether these weapons have the capability to evade the security tools which may be in the customer organization. Customer may have intrusion prevention system, intrusion detection system, or even a malware control, AV, antivirus engine. So these tools, what they are selecting, should be able to effectively bypass or evade these security tools. In case these security tools are able to detect these weapons what are used by the hacker, then customer may be effectively if they may be able to thwart these attempts. So to overcome this, what they do is the kind of tool they select, they'll ensure that that particular tool may not be detected by the security controls which are deployed within the customer's organization. So this is the second stage. So at this stage, they decide upon the tool that they are going to target the customer with. Okay, at the next stage, they deliver the tool that they have decided that using which they will breach the customer. So these delivery mechanisms differ based on the target that they are aiming at. They may use multiples of these two. They may attempt through multiple delivery mechanisms and see which they are successful with. Phishing emails are the one which are pretty much popular. So today, we get a lot of phishing emails. Actually, they may look like scandalous, like trying to get our account details, maybe a banking account details, or our credentials that we use for our corporate application access. But behind this email campaign, there could be very big plan involved, wherein it's just not the individual user whom they are targeting. It may be the complete corporate or the organization to whom they may belong. One of the incident which recently we investigated, there were phishing emails sent to a corporate society, meaning where the individual employee were residing in their society, in the residential society. They had some kind of mail communication wherein certain communication used to be sent to their mail IDs. So these phishing emails were sent using to those mail IDs, and they pretty much know this. These employees were working in certain organization, and actual target was the organization's network. So to target the organization network, they narrow down on which particular residential complex the employee is staying, and what kind of tools they're using internally for their communication. So using which so that is the extent to which hackers go. They completely map the target whom they are aiming at, and then decide which is the way they could breach. And others could be web application attacks. So web application is pretty much present on the net, and these applications are always accessible for anyone in internet. That is a policy typically implemented. For example, if an organization has a website on the internet, they typically allow anyone to visit the website, find the details about their organization. So even for a hacker, there is a handy opening through which they could get in, and then decide to move further inside. And you will also see techniques like drop USB sticks. So you may find some places now where people just find USB sticks and people who are unsuspecting, when they pick them up and plug into their machine, essentially this technique is used to breach the machine, using which they get into the organization to which the machine connects through, and then they move around. So the initial breach may be the delivery of this malware could be using any of these means. And even if someone is using a very weak password, so using which a hacker could get into the organization and upload using those credentials, they could upload this malicious code using them. There are multiple ways. These are certain popular means that is used. The drop USB stick example what you are seeing was used in one major breach, wherein hackers were able to bring down a complete nuclear plant. So they were able to breach the SCADA systems and then bring down the core nuclear plant just by getting inside using a USB stick. They had infected the laptop which was managing this network, and from the management network, they were able to reach the SCADA machines, which were actually controlling the centrifuges in a nuclear plant. So hackers know that is the extent to which they will be able to go. So even though it looks very simple, like how can a dropped USB stick, right? Abandoned USB stick cause a problem. So this is the extent to which people are used, and we have seen them practically working today. And the next stage, if you look at it, is the exploitation stage. So in exploitation stage, what happens is once the malicious code has been successfully shipped, maybe the phishing email to which what was sent an end users clicked it. Once he clicks on the link, then that particular link downloads this particular payload within the organization. Without the user knowledge, it will gets installed within the system. And then the hacker is able to exploit further vulnerabilities. So the vulnerabilities they exploit typically could be the zero-day or unpatched vulnerabilities, or they could install the software so that they could get a remote backend access to it. Whatever is their objective, they'll be able to achieve once the system, the hack, they were able to successfully make ship the tool inside and then make the user install and click on these links. So basically, the system gets compromised internally, one of the system, and this particular system which gets compromised may not be the actual system what the hackers are targeting. This is the initial breach which gives them an entry into the network. So after that, we'll see what they could do. The next stage is command and control. In command and control is where they actually install further tools like which will give them a complete access to the network. They may have some remote access trojans which could give a complete desktop access, whatever some a user is performing on a screen, the same screen replica may be available outside, or it could just give a connection through the permitted ports. So typically in organization, HTTPS DNS ports are permitted, basically to allow the browsing traffic go to internet or the DNS query. So using these protocols, which are typically open in an organization, the hackers may able to hide their trace. So it will, for a security admin or a network admin, it will look like a browsing activity of an end user, but actually it may be a traffic which may be taking back the information from the customer's network back to the hacker. And most of the time they use technologies like encryption, so they hide their activity. And even if there are some kind of security tools, once the data is encrypted, even those tools couldn't really make out whether it's a malicious traffic or a valid traffic from an end user. And they use different mechanisms to hide. For example, the traffic that is going out, if it goes to a single particular IP outside the organization, the IT admin or security administrators could make out, why is this amount of data going to a specific IP? If they drill down, they may find out that particular IP is malicious or so. So what they use techniques like fast flux, which has a dynamic DNS and multiple technologies involved, which will take the traffic to multiple IPs. It may not be a single IP to which the data is sent out, but the data gets sent out to multiple IPs so that the security team which is monitoring the traffic may not get a suspicion, or this may not be flagged as something suspicious. So they use different techniques to hide their trace and to hide the CNC, command and control servers. So typically the command and control servers gets identified and the IPs gets blacklisted. To avoid from these kind of blacklisted IPs, they come up with new IPs registered, new domains registered, and using the technology like FastFlex, they're able to hide their trace and keep their connections alive. And they could also have web shells. So typically when they have breached a web server, they could install web shell, wherein these shells will let them run any kind of commands or any kind of activities within their web server, which may be residing within the customer's organization. So once the server is compromised, then they could get a remote access to shell from this server and then execute whatever they want. These shell scripts could be a CLI or it could also give them a complete GUI. I'll just show a screenshot of a sample web shell that was used in one of our attack. I don't know how many of you are tracking these attacks that are going on. There's a popular attack called Target. It was against a company called Target Inc., where huge database of their customers' credit card information was leaked. So this particular web shell that I'll be showing in the next coming screens was the actual shell that was used in this particular attack. And unlike a reverse shell, the web shell gives you the complete control. You could do a file browsing, you could execute a remote command, and you could see the process running in the remote system. All of them could be controlled from using this particular web shell. So next is lateral movement. Once command and control is implemented in a customer organization, the next step what hacker does is they try to move laterally. As I said, the data may not be residing in the initial machine on which they had access to. So in lateral movement, what they decide to do is they just try to move within the network and locate where the data may be residing. Actually, the target data, what they're aiming at, may be residing. So they may set up some kind of pivot. Looking at what is that pivot, they may use one of the systems now which they have breached as the base. From there, they'll start scanning internally to figure out the internal network, the IP scheme, the kind of access they have from that particular system to the rest of the network. Maybe do they have access to the server segment? Do they have access to some critical storage where the data is residing? And they may try to move laterally through the organization. So this is where organization which has flat networks, they have a serious issue. Once one of these machines is in breached, then the hacker could get access to any of the systems in the internal network. So that's where there's a concept of segmentation will help out. So we'll see in the later part of the presentation, we'll also see how these kind of weaknesses could be overcome. So segmentation, you could remember, is one of the technique using which even if one of the system is breached, you could contain within that particular segment. So critical data could be migrate to different network segment wherein even if one system breached, they don't get access to the critical data. And most of the organizations today, have a very flat network within the organization, which helps the hackers to easily move around. And also visibility also is minimal. If there's a segmentation, the traffic crosses from one segment to the other, the visibility is there. Like security administrators and network administrators get to know there's a new connection of this sort, crossing one network to the other network. But if it's within the same flat network, then even that visibility goes off. They may not be able to get visibility within the same LAN. That is another challenge that is there. And there are certain tools like PSSec, WMI, and PowerShell. These are all used for administrative activities. Legitimately, they're used within the network to manage a big network and the IT infra that they have. So these tools, once again, are leveraged by hackers. So once they get in, they use these kind of tools to just move around and build upon their initial breach to locate the target data that they are trying to take away. So these all tools are used, and these usage of these tools normally is not suspected. It looks like a typical genuine IT administration activity within an organization. So last stage in this kill chain is the data exfiltration. So once after the lateral movement, once they have decided and located the data where it is, once the hackers lay their hands on, then their challenge is how do they take this data out without anyone's notice. So once they are able to locate this data and get access to it, then what they do is they set up a staging server internally within the network. They just copy this data to a server or a location from where they will be able to gradually send the data out. For example, if you remember hack where Sony network was hacked, the hackers were able to take away the complete movie. The movie file would have been a 3 to 4 GB of data. They were able to take the complete 3 to 4 GB without anyone's notice, without the IT team noticing that such a big data breach is happening. And this particular PS and Sony's network, this is not the first breach actually. 2-3 years before that, they had a major breach. So their team was sensitized. They had all the security tools in place. In spite of that, hackers were able to once again breach the network, take the movie, which Sony was supposed to release during a Christmas season. Just before Sony could release it on their date they published, hackers were able to release that movie online. They tried to get a ransom amount from Sony. Since the company didn't pay, they had released it. So how this kind of data filtration is possible is hackers are able to smartly move this to a staging setup, and then from there they encrypt the complete content so that any kind of security tool that is there implemented in the network, which is meant to detect this kind of malicious traffic, they don't detect it. I mean, the traffic that goes out from the system will look like a normal activity. It look like a normal browsing activity by end user, or there are some services like FTP or other services enabled. It look like a normal regular FTP happening within the network. So using which they compress, encrypt, and take their data out. So these are the typical techniques used in a breach. So we saw 7 stages of breach, and these are the different stages. So for us to actually protect ourselves. So we should be able to break the skill chain at any one stage, just before the data exfiltration happen. At any one stage, if you're able to detect and break it, then you will be able to save the data in the organization. Today, if you're seeing the breaches and they have been reported, so hackers are able to successful in all these stages, and none of the stage, the IT teams which are managing or the security team which are protecting this data, they were able to alert or first of all get noticed that such activity is happening within their network, and then protect the data that they are managing. So typically, if you see most of the hacks, even the example of Sony hack, which I said, security teams would not have even known that such data breaches happen until unless the hackers come back to customer and threaten, ask for ransom. Only then they realize that this breaches happen. So that is the ground reality today. Even though I just gave a couple of examples, this is pretty much common across, and that is our preparedness today. Today, if a hacker decides to set his eyes on and he decides to take a data out, he'll be able to do. So that is the kind of situation that we are in. So that's the kind of vulnerabilities that we have in the system that we use, and the practices that we follow, and the design that is there in the existing IT infra. So these IT infra were not really designed with this kind of threats in mind. Actually, when they designed, they didn't have these things anticipated, but the kind of attack progression what we see over a period of time is exponential. So this particular scenario what we discussed till now, with all these stages, we have actually depicted a lab scenario which Shika was speaking. The next session, the hands-on lab session, you will have a chance to go through them. So you will actually wear the role of a hacker, and you will just go through all these 7 stages. So we have a lab setup where we have reverse engineered and hacked the target in CAC, which is that where a database breach happened, where credit card information went out. We reverse engineered it, and we had recreated the same setup in our lab with the same kind of vulnerabilities. So the participants who are interested and who successfully answered the questions today, and who get selected for the next hands-on session will get a chance to be a hacker and do these breaches hands-on. You will be exploiting a vulnerability on a system. You'll be doing an initial recon, and then you will just select the target tool that you will be using, breach an initial web server, and then from there you just scan the network, target the destination data that you want to take out, and use the command and control mechanisms to actually take the data out. So the entire exercise is set up as a lab, and you'll be getting a chance to do that. So that will be the first attack challenge phase. And also, if you effectively manage your time, you will also get a chance to do the defend part. So at this every stage, right? How do you break this? So first part will be like, as a hacker, how do you successfully breach the system, take the data out? And the second part, you will learn what all security technologies are available and how to effectively use them to detect these attacks and then prevent them from happening. So both the phases are there. So you will wear the role of a hacker, as well as you will be, a defender, where you will be able to successfully, stop these breaches from happening. So the reason why we are not getting to know in detail is today we need to have the mindset of a hacker. Only then we will be able to protect our infrastructure enough. So as the saying goes, from Sun Tzu. So if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. So if you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gain, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So that's what's happening today. So the kind of IT infrastructure that has gone into any organization or any network to build services, it has become so complicated for the IT teams to keep track of really what's happening. So you'll be surprised to see that even the team which is managing an IT infrastructure, for them to keep track of the assets, what really they have, it'll be a very big challenge. For example, if there is a power shutdown, right? There's a scheduled maintenance for a UPS. What ideally IT team has to do is they have to visit all these machines in the data center, safely shut them down. The practical challenges may be even people may not know physical location of the servers. So that is a ground reality today. That is a kind of challenge we have, and there's a huge dearth of skill set for these IT infrastructure management and also team securing them. So there's a humongous challenge for the team to manage the kind of setup they're managing. So that's the reason why we are finding breaches happening so easily. So in the attack challenge, typically you will go through a scenario where you perform certain activity and answer objective questions internally, and you get points based on the steps which you have successfully crossed. So it's a 400 point given for the attack phase. There's a scoreboard where the actual scores get displayed in real time, like a cricket scores you see, right? You just get a real-time scoreboard where you get to see we have different teams, and then we'll see which team is progressing towards their target. And also, if you're stuck, like you're not able to solve the problem, if you're not able to breach, then you could make use of hints that's available. But possibly, your mark that you could score will go down. But you could take the hints, if you're really finding it tough, using them, you'll be able to move forward. So in this attack scenario, you will have a target. Akim Corp, is the organization that you'll be targeting, where they will have a portal which is meant for supplier for their partners and suppliers. So that portal will have a vulnerability using which you will be doing an initial recon, and then you will just breach it, get into using vulnerability in it. There is a SQL injection vulnerability using which you'll be getting in, and then you'll be progressing in this attack phases. And finally, you'll compromise a web server to get access to their network. So there are different tools that you will use. Actually, these tools, what you're seeing here, the WebShell, right? B374K PHP was the actual tool used in that particular breach. The targeting attack, which I said, is actually this particular WebShell was used in that particular attack. You'll be using the same tool in this lab scenario, and you'll be using it to breach the initial server. And you'll also use tools like Metasploit and Armitage. Basically, these are penetration testing tools. Probably if you had used a Kali Linux distribution of Linux, you would have come across these tools. Basically used to do a penetration testing to check the strength of a system, whether systems are patched properly or the vulnerable, can hacker breach in. You could use this tool to launch. So you use the same tool to launch these attacks. And Metasploit is the actual PT tool, and Armitage is a GUI for this Metasploit, which gives you ready-made exploit, the code that you could use to breach a system. So backdoor.exe is another tool that you'll use part of this, which sets up a metapreter and give a reverse shell. Basically, it will establish a connection to the destination server, and it will give you a reverse shell. And this all are part of a Kali machine, which you will get part of the hands-on lab workshop. So these are the tools that you'll be using in that. And these are tools today that are used today. Most of them are open source. Metasploit, right, comes with Kali Linux, and you will be able to download them freely. If you are interested in further exploring on this area, right, you could explore. Have a Kali Linux installed and then try these tools. So this web shell, which I talked about, which was used in that particular hack, so has a file manager inbuilt. So it gives you the remote access of the server and displays all the files that are there. It helps you rename, copy those files, delete those files, or do whatever you want. And typically, hackers hide their trace. What I mean by hiding their traces, see, each and every activity, even a connection to a system gets logged somewhere in a system log, right? It will show from which IP the connection was made. So hackers, what they do is they also delete those tracks by deleting those logs or clearing of the data. So they use these tools to perform those activities. And if you want to run some remote command you want to run on the server, it gives an option of a shell where you could run those command execution. And if you want to connect to database from the system to a remote system, you could do. And you could do a SQL Explorer, see the records in a tables and records in a database. You could also do a file search on the remote system, check the process that are running in it, terminate it, start, stop. So all those operations. Typically, these are the operations done by the system administrator when he has a authorized access to the server. So without those access using this web shell, once you are able to successfully breach, you'll be able to do all of them, even without the admin password. So that is the power of this tools. This is the look and feel. So once you are successfully able to have this web shell, or you're able to breach a web server, you get access to the web server with this kind of options. So this is the GUI of this web shell that I was talking about. So you could see a file browser in it. It has options to know this is the process that is running in it, and this file browser gives you option to do any kind of file operation, rename, delete, or create a new file. So it's as good as owning that server. So Metasploit, as I said, is a penetration testing tool. It's a complete framework. So it has a database of exploits. So if you decided now what is the target that you are aiming at, it will give you a list of exploits that is possible with that particular target. For example, it's a Windows 7 machine, not properly patched. So it will give you all the exploits that will work with that particular Windows machine with that level of patch. So you will be able to successfully select the payload that you want to. So this is what at the weaponization stage, that's what you decide. You decide to use specific exploit against the target. And it also has multiple other tools along with. You could do network scanning, do a scan to find out the other systems in the network, packet sniffing. You could capture the packet that is there in the network. You could do ARP poisoning, meaning the MAC address mapping is maintained within the organization, within the network. So you could just change the MAC address so that you could fool access control list and other security controls that are there within the network. So you could make them ineffective using these tools. So Armitage is the GUI for this particular tool, Metasploit. So this Armitage basically helps you do all this, use this Metasploit using a graphical user interface. So it gives you option to mention the target IP address and all those things. Otherwise, you will, without the Armitage, you'll be doing in CLI. This lab session that I'm referring is comes with this Armitage. So it makes it easier. So you're not worried to participate in the workshop. You do not have a complete expertise on these tools. It's a self-intuitive and you'll be able to do. And there's a guide which tells you how to go about using these tools. So even if you're using it for the first time, you'll be comfortable in the lab with this guide that comes along with. So this is a look and feel of the Armitage GUI, so which gives you a graphical user interface for your Metasploit. So it makes it life easier. Otherwise, using Metasploit, you need to know multiple CLI command line options to use this particular tool. So this GUI makes it much more visual. It tells you the target. Visually it depicts. It gives you the OS type, and also it shows you the status, whether the breach has been successful, the connection is alive or not. So you'll be able to visually see them using this tool. Okay, so we just saw the steps involved in successfully breaching a network. Okay, that's what these are the mechanisms used by hackers to get in. So as an IT administrator or a security administrator, what are the ways how we can protect ourselves from this? So we'll see the defense methodology in this part of the presentation. So the objective is to break the kill chain. So we saw different 7 steps, right? 7 different steps. We'll see how at each step we are able to put some security controls in place and then stop these attacks from going through. Since I represent Fortinet, I'll be mentioning the tools that's available from Fortinet, which can effectively use. Maybe there are other vendors too who provide similar tools, but Fortinet is a company which has a complete set of tools for breaking the complete kill chain. So other vendors may have certain part of the challenge they may be able to handle, not the complete one. Fortinet has a complete gamut of solution, which I'll just map it so that it's basically the technology that is needed for you to prevent yourself from being breached, and what are the tools available readily today in the market that using which you will be able to do them. So we saw there are 7 steps involved in attack kill chain. So basically the first one being Reconnaissance, then the weaponization, third step being delivery of the exploit, and fourth being the actual exploit being carried out, then getting a command and control to the server, breach server, then doing a lateral movement within the internal network to locate the actual data where it's residing. Last is once the hacker is able to put his hands on the actual data, copy them and then take them securely outside, evade the security tools that are there. So these are the steps that we saw that are part of the attack kill chain. And the solution that is available today, there are tools, technologies, as I said, from Fortinet. We provide tools and technologies to secure yourself. But more than the tool and technology, what is of utmost importance is to follow some best practice and frameworks. So here now, what is depicted is a NIST cybersecurity framework. So this is part of the defense life cycle. For you to effectively secure an organization, you need to have a best practice or a framework using which you'll be able to approach it. So ad hoc way of just putting some security controls alone won't really protect. So any vendor or organization is saying, no, I could protect your organization or network 100%. Really, no, that is not possible. Practically, that is not possible. Today, as long as the data is there in the network, definitely that's a way to breach it. Only thing what we could do is minimize the possibility and no, make it tough for a hacker to put his hands onto the data. That's what we're trying to do with the tools. So this approach is going to be like, it's a cyclical approach. So first what we do is we have an identification phase where you locate or identify the assets. Really, you need to know what is that you're protecting. Only then you'll be able to effectively protect them. So identifying the asset will be the first phase. Even though it looks very simple, practically doing it within an organization is a humongous task. You want to know how many systems are there, what kind of OS they are running. All of them are a very big challenge for the IT team. I mean, these infra keep growing and they keep changing over a period of time. So keeping track of all this is a very big challenge in itself. So first is to have a proper asset management policy, procedure, and a process in place. This is what you do, and then you do an initial risk assessment. You do what are the risks that is posed for these assets, and how do you minimize the risk. So you do this part at the first stage. You identify, have some process in place to regularly keep those data updated, and then you have risk management wherein you identify this is the risk posed to this data. So accordingly, I'll manage the risk using this way. So you document them. Second is actually to protect those data. So what all can you do? You could harden. Hardening is best practice procedures. For example, when you install a Windows system, by default it comes with a lot of services. By default, then it comes with a username password which is guessable, or maybe a blank password. So for you, part of the hardening procedure, you remove unnecessary services. If there are some missing patches, you just patch them. If there are default username password, change them, make it as per the organization security policy. So these best practices that needs to be followed when a system has to be going into production is called hardening. So you do a baseline check and then you permit the system to go live into the network. Second is to isolate. So based on the criticality level, isolate the system. For example, if that particular system is meant for sales organization, it's having some sales data meant to be used only by the sales team, then that particular network should be having access only for sales members. It should not be put in a common network where each and everyone the team could access it. So you isolate that particular service by its function and the need to access. So next is application. If you should know what kind of applications you're running. Are you running email application? Are you running a web application? What is the criticality of it? Accordingly, put protections for them. Email application may require different set of security controls. It may need an anti-spam filter, antivirus filter. A web server may need an intrusion prevention system. Attacks may be there for a web server. It may have to protect it from them. So accordingly, you put controls. Also, you may have endpoints like desktops, laptops. You put security controls for endpoints. You have the endpoint antivirus. You have endpoint VPN gateways. You have two-factor authentication mechanisms for endpoint. So there are multiple controls, like even a network access control tools are available today. So you use these kind of tools to protect your systems. That is the stage. So once you have the security controls in place, next step is to have detection mechanisms. Even though you put all these controls, you expect something could go wrong. So you just keep monitoring the systems, where the health of the systems, are they all okay? Or the security controls you are deployed, are they all functioning well? And what are the directions happening in the security controls? The security controls, you would have defined certain policies, certain traffic that is permitted, certain traffic that is not permitted. You look out for traffic that is getting blocked. Who is attempting? No, you're not given an access, but still some attempts are made. From where are these attempts coming from? Even on the permitted traffic, you just figure out, is there some kind of abnormal usage? Is the usage normal? How many processes, how many connections are happening from each host? So you keep detecting them and look for some kind of deviations from the baseline, and then make out if it matches any attack pattern. There are different tools like antivirus gateway, intrusion prevention system, advanced threat prevention. There are sandboxes which could detect advanced threats. There are SIEM tools. SIEM stands for Security Incident and Event Management. So which could correlate logs from all the devices in your network. It could also get logs from your UPS, your AC systems, if they are able to send SNMP. So all these could contribute in security incident. So you collect logs from all of these devices, from your endpoint, desktop, laptop, servers, network devices, all of them in a central location, and try to correlate. If there is an incident happening, in SIM, you could clearly make out which was the first point of entry. After that, where all it moved around and later result in a major incident. So SIM could also help you in preventing. Maybe I was just talking about 7 steps in the attack kill chain. So using SIM, you will be able to detect it early and then stop not a certain point by responding in time. And there are TAs, nothing but threat intelligence feeds that you could take from security vendors, which will keep you updated on what are the trends that's happening in the industry, and then keep your systems alerted or updated. Last is respond. So not last but only. So when does response comes into play? Response is when a system is breached, when an incident happens. So the expectation you should have is incident will definitely happen. How do you contain them and then remedy it? How do you recover back from it? You should have a clear plan and procedure, expecting that your systems could get breached, and how do you reclaim from it, and then clean the system, put it back to the network so that it's effectively working the production network. Last is trust assessment. In the trust assessment, you just look at the overall entire review of the policies, procedures, and you document whatever was learnings from the incidents, and then you come up with improvement plans. So what was the weakness in using which a breach happened, and how do you, going forward, prevent them? So that should be the approach. So it's a cyclical approach. So they used to refer it as PDCA, plan, do, check, act. So if you remember Deming cycle, so any organization could really improve its security posture only if it follows this methodology of a continuous security improvement. So they overnight can't put some security control and increase the security level. So they will have to follow this process and keep repeating them, maybe every year or every quarter based on the business need. They need to revisit all these components and then refine. Only then they will be able to effectively secure them. Okay, we'll just see how to secure the systems effectively at each stage. So Fortinet has come out with an approach called Fortinet Security Fabric. So where we feel we should have an unified approach towards security. So in an IT infrastructure, you will see components or your data residing at different parts. It could be in your endpoint, it could be in your web servers, in your application servers. It could be, so you need to secure different parts of your network. So the component showed in here is right. You have something called 40 client, which is meant for endpoint protection. So we have 40 AP, 40 switches, which is for secure access. When you connect using a wireless or even a wired network LAN, you have security controls in place, get a visibility there. You have 40 analyzer SIM, which is meant for connecting the logs centrally and correlating the events and then detecting advanced threats. And right hand side, you see 40 web, 40 mail, 40 ADC. That's meant for application security. You will have web servers, mail servers, and no servers for which load balancing has to be done. So these all security tools could help you do that. We have 40 PM and 40 CASB, which is a security tool at the network layer. So you could define policies. So I was talking about lateral movement. So if it's a flat network, a hacker, once they breach the system, can move around, reach any of the systems in the network. So if you have a firewall which is segmenting the traffic, so you could have resources in different, if there's a sales network, you will have a separate interface to which it connects. So if someone has to reach a sales network, there should be a firewall policy which permits them. Only then you'll be able to move. If there's a production manufacturing network, you will have a separate policies defined there. If it is a management network, you have separate policies. Likewise, you have FortiGate and different controls that is there, which could have policies and protection at different parts of your network. And Fortinet believes that these tools and technologies, if they independently operate, they may not be able to effectively secure. So what Fortinet prefers is to have an integrated approach where you are able to connect and integrate all these tools together, where they are able to talk to each other, they are able to exchange the threat intel between them. For example, if an endpoint, a Forti client finds a new threat, using USB, it is seeing a new threat which was not seen there earlier. So the Forti client can report that back to a sandbox. Sandbox will scan that particular payload, even though it's a new attack vector, what is seen, right, for which signature is not available. Forti sandbox could develop a new signature, distribute to all other mechanisms. So same thread, same file, what came in through USB attacking an endpoint, the same file is or payload is trying to get through a network, like they are trying to send through an email or through a web upload. The FortiGate firewall could block that. Because of FortiGate detected it, send it to Forti Sandbox for further analysis. Sandbox, being an advanced threat technology, could update all the system. So Fortinet believes in different parts of the network integrated, and they talk to each other. So The threat intelligence is not shared between these. So when they are integrated, the benefit that end customer gets is he'll have a broad visibility. He will clearly get to know what's happening across his network. He may not know be siloed off. Second is when you have the integrated approach, you have these technologies that could know how, for example, you have to respond. You detected there's a new attack coming in. To prevent that attack from spreading, you need to make some changes in the infrastructure. Maybe that particular endpoint system which has been infected with the virus need to be isolated from the network. So what can be done? So immediately this Forti switch could be instructed to shut down the interface which endpoint could be is connecting. So these kind of automations are possible if you have this integrated approach. So Fortinet believes in this approach, and we have our solutions designed which will tightly integrate, talk to each other. So we have fabric connectors, APIs using which we do that, and we have centralized Forti manager, which centrally manages them, gives a single dashboard view. So this is an approach what Fortinet has taken. So we'll see how these kind of tools and technology, can effectively break a kill chain. So the first phase, identification phase, essentially we said, we need to do an inventory of the actual devices and systems that is there in the network. And we need to know what kind of software platform that we have, what all versions and applications that we run, and what kind of data movement has. Is there a database related traffic? Is it a web related traffic? Is it mail related traffic? You need to map the data flow from where to where the data flow happens. And you need to prioritize and know based on the criticality level. There could be a laptop of CIO which has very high criticality. There could be a system used by a contractor that may not have the same criticality level as the CEO's laptop. So these different assets should be given different priority. An incident happening on the CEO's laptop carries a different kind of risk than the incident happening on a contractor's system. So we need to have different kind of tags done to these systems and then treat it differently. And also we should have a asset vulnerability management where we need to know which are the missions which are missing patches, which are running with weak passwords. So all these things need to be done in an automated fashion. And you also need to have cyber threat intelligence sources from which you get feed. If your standard is on Windows 10 platform, then you need to know what all newly evolving threats that are evolving on Windows 10 platform. So you should have subscribed to this threat intelligence. So the tools from Fortinet which could help you in identification is we have a tool called FortiView, which is part of most of our security controls, which will give a visibility on what is happening, what kind of connections is going through, which all applications are from which traffic is originating, and how many connections are going through, what kind of upload download is happening, what is the actual file name, which application, is it a YouTube traffic, is it a traffic going to Google Talk or a Google Map. So all these things could be detailed data could be displayed in this FortiView. So this is a Forti telemetry which uses collects data from multiple systems to correlate the events that are there. And we have Forti Manager Analyzer for centralized management to apply policies centrally as well as to collect the logs and generate reports for visibility part. And we have Forti Client for endpoint protection, which also does software inventory, which all applications the end user is installing on his laptop, desktop. So those details you will have. And it will also do vulnerability scanning of the endpoints and then report it back in a central dashboard. So benefit of these tools are to help you identify, have a proper asset management in the organization in a systematic way. And suddenly you get to know the particular OS with this particular patch node is vulnerable for particular new exploit that is coming in. You need to immediately know how many systems in a network are running that OS, that particular patch level, so that you'll be able to address it or rollout patch for them. So this identification phase, if it's done properly, lets you effectively respond. So next is protection stage, where you identified what kind of assets you have, what kind of threats they are facing. Then you decide what kind of security controls that you need to have so that you will be able to effectively protect them. So you could figure out, there are identities, username, passwords that are used. So how do you effectively manage them? And there are network level segmentations. What we could do to give a protection. Data at rest, when data is stored in a storage device or in system. So how do we protect them? Data in motion, when the data is transferred across your network, how do they securely get transferred? You have VPN tunnels and encrypted mechanisms using which you transfer when the data has to move from one location to the other. And there are baseline configurations like the hardening procedure, which I said, to maintain baseline configuration and periodically check whether the baseline configuration is met or the production setup deviating from the baseline configuration. And we also do regular vulnerability management, where you just have a plan. How do you know fix this? How do you roll out patches? There's a new vulnerability found in a system. How do you effectively quickly roll out? And resilience. And resilience is nothing but when a system fails, how do you recover from it? Do you have HA mechanisms, high availability? If one system goes down, like automatically other system kicks in and then takes the load, ensures that the production traffic is up and running. And three options where you could do load sharing when the load suddenly spikes, how to handle it. Your hard swap, for example, if some components in the system fail, like hard disk fail, today technology is available like hard swap, wherein you could plug in a replacement hard disk without shutting down or restarting the system. Automatically, it will detect the changes and then rebuild the new RAID and other systems. So we have different tools from Fortinet, FortiAnalyzer, FortiClient, and multiple tools which could help you achieve this. So when you have these effective tools or protection mechanisms built in, so you ensure you are able to effectively first detect anything that's abnormal happening in your network, and then effectively stop that particular abnormality from impacting the production network or the data that you have. Detection phase, like you have some monitoring tools that could keep tab of your network 24/7 and figure out what kind of changes that are happening and how they are impacting your network. So you have network monitoring, which sees the health of the device, what's the percentage of resource utilization, CPU, memory utilization, hard disk usage. So all those things gets monitored, and those two could hint at something going wrong. And whatever events that are detected, you have mechanisms to address it. Maybe an effective ticketing system or some kind of automated mechanism using which these detection are addressed. And even if there's a malicious code detected, what is the response you take? You isolate the system or what is the activity you will do? So we have tools today that could automate all of this. And monitoring for unauthorized connections. For example, you have a VPN access enabled. You're seeing repeatedly failed authentication attempts from the same username from different parts of the world. Meaning it's an hack attempt which the username's credential is somewhere stolen or breached, and people are trying to authenticate using it from different part of the world. So you could have all these detection mechanisms using which you monitor and effectively thwart those kind of abnormal or unauthorized activity. So in Fortinet, we have FortiSIEM for event correlation, FortiAnalyzer with IOC. So IOC is nothing but indicator of compromise. So it will map a pattern and then tell is this resembling an attack vector. Even though before the attack happens, you will be able to make out there's some pattern which could resemble an attack which could later happen. FortiGuard Labs has an AI engine. So we have AI feeds, so wherein we have artificial intelligence that is used to even detect the new pattern, develop signatures for it, and then protect your infrastructure. So global threat intelligence sharing. So today there are tie-ups with multiple security agencies across the globe who share their trends and threats that they detect newly. And we have Forti Sandbox, which is for advanced threat protection. So the new malicious code, which is till now not known, maybe trying to exploit a zero-day threat. This Forti Sandbox will be able to find out the pattern in it, develop a signature. It's an automated mechanism to develop a signature for a new threat that is detected. The benefit is quickly identify the occurrence and reduce the impact of. So last stage, last button says respond. So in respond, what do you once a breaches or incident has happened, how do you effectively come out of it? The first to there are needs to notify the team involved, and you may have to do some forensics. You may have to preserve the logs and track exactly from where the data connection attempts came, where the data was taken out. So all those details could be figured from the log and other mechanism that you could have, and you could contain incidents if it's identified initially, and you mitigate this incident, the damage caused by it, right? You just try to minimize the damage, and different tools that are available is you have a FortiClient using which there's a quarantine functionality which could isolate the system on its own in an automated way. In the FortiGate, you have automated ban IP. So if it sees something abnormal happening from a system, it will automatically ban that IP, maybe permanently or not, just ban it for an hour or 30 minutes. If you see, if you worry that it could be a false positive. So you could also have integration of different components. If you are using branch office, head office kind of scenario, you can integrate all these devices, the firewalls running in them, and then let them exchange data and have visibility sample rolled up in a single dashboard. That helps also to quickly respond to incidents. And there are APIs available. APIs are nothing but application programming interface, which lets you automate certain response actions. For example, I give an example of if you find a system which is infected with virus endpoint, which is connected on the LAN. So using the API integration, you'll be able to go and shut down the network port to which it is connected, the switch port to which the system is connected. Even though these products may be from different vendors. For example, you are using the firewall from Fortinet and switch from a different vendor. So using the API integration, you'll be able to trigger a response action wherein you could go and shut down that particular port in a switch. So which will isolate that system from the network. So this kind of automation is possible today, and technology supports. So you'll be able to contain the impact of security incidents. So last in the trust assessment stage, what you do is you have a recovery plan. You possibly these all are done even before a breach that happens. You have a plan in place. In case I'm breached, what all you would have a detailed documented procedure, and the recovery plan will tell and document the lessons learned. So what went wrong this time and how do you prevent it next from reoccurring? And also if there is a case where you have to manage public relations. For example, if the organization's website is defaced, that could be a very big blow for the image of the company. So in that scenario, the PRO should go back and manage the situation so that they give or get the confidence back from public. And reputation, if there is a beating happen. I just was mentioning about the Sony incident and other things. So there's a entire business is at stake. Like their name goes for a toss, share values will go down. So they have to do something to set all those things. Recovery activities are communicated to stakeholders. So people involved are communicated saying what is the impact, when can the recovery happen, how long will it take. So all those things are communicated. So it could be a simple breach or it could be an incident like Twin Tower, wherein the complete thing goes for a task. Many businesses which didn't have a proper recovery plan or a BCPDR, they went out of business after that incident. So having this kind of plan in place, anticipating an incident will help you when an emergency happens, and to really figure out what happened and how to go about. Even if legally we have to go about taking up in a code, then you could get data from these tools like SIEM and Analyzer, which will give you a complete trace of what happened, and those logs could be used as an evidence. So benefit is having a timely recovery, and even breaches happen, right? Helping the business get back to business. So that's all about BCPDR. So you have in this lab session or workshop, what I referred, which will follow up in the next week. You have an option of having the first stage, you do the breaches, you successfully take out the data. The second stage, you use these tools, security tools from Fortinet, to effectively secure them. There are essential guides will guide how to effectively configure these tools to protect your organization. If you are interested, what you could do is the training material for this. For example, you may be hearing these tools for the first time, like FortiWeb, FortiGate, FortiSandbox. So if you are technically interested to know more about them, learn them, get training on them, today the online training content is freely available. So for the COVID reasons, Fortinet decided to give away the complete training material free of cost. The online content is completely available. The content which typically used to cost $2,000-3,000 for the material, right, now is available for everyone in the public. With your own email ID, you could register, get practiced on this, and tomorrow, if you come to the workshop next week, right, you could prepare yourself, in this meantime to effectively, get to familiarize with these tools and then, be effective in the workshop. And as I said on sign, the scenario has a solution. It will guide you how to go about. Even if you are new to the tool and if you are stuck somewhere, you could take the hints and then move on. Okay, the training which I was referring, I thought I'll just touch upon. It will be of benefit for the entire community. So Fortinet has a training program called NSC. The training track is Network Security Expert Program, wherein we have different levels from level 1 to level 8. Level 1 and 2 is awareness program, wherein it has CPTs where you could just go through them, take a quiz, and you get certified for that level. So for level 1 and 2, it's a self-study. You could just visit this site, training.fortinet.com. You could use your email ID. It's earlier they are only allowing official mail IDs, but during the COVID period, they are open it for public. So anyone with a mail ID can register yourself, get access to this website, and then start pursuing the training program. So I'll encourage all of you to get yourself certified. So you could have the network security expert level 1 and 2 on your own. It basically talks about different kinds of attack. So in the today's presentation, you would have seen phishing attack. These trainings will take you in detail about phishing, like phishing, who is behind this, what kind of mechanism they do use. Within the phishing, there are different types: spear phishing, target. Multiple types of phishing attacks are there. Why are they done? Who is the target, and what are the typical mechanisms? So it's more of an awareness wherein tomorrow, if you are targeted or someone in an organization, you'll be able to make out. It also tells you how to identify. If you're getting an email, it may look, for example, I may get an email with my own company mail ID, as though the mail will pretend as though it has come from my own organization, someone at senior level, and there'll be certain pattern that you could observe. It will have some urgency in it. It will ask me to take some action. So all this resemble a pattern. So in this training, you'll get to know what kind of pattern spammers push you into. And once you know that, tomorrow, if someone is following that pattern, you'll be able to resist that. It could be even an SMS on which you get a URL link. Someone asks you to click it. So these trainings will help you stay aware, get to know about the trends that's happening in the industry, and protect yourself. So this NSC training, there are 8 levels, as I said. Right now, I think till this year and at least till December, I think all these trainings are freely available. Otherwise, only level 1 and 2, which was for awareness, was available for public. But right now, due to COVID reasons, they have opened up it for everyone. They wanted the entire public to get access to it, to the complete training content. So if you wish to proceed from NSC 4 onwards, it's hands-on training. So the tools that I was talking today, the FortiWeb, FortiGate, FortiManager, Analyzer, all these tools, training content is available here. NSC 4, 5, and 6, if you go through, you'll see the training content for all of them. Using this registration that you do in the training portal, you'll be able to get access to any of all these trainings. So it's only that matter of time and effort that you could spend on your interest level. So I will encourage all of you to access this content, which is very valuable. Make use of it. In fact, they also give you a hands-on lab exercises. If you finish a module, you have an option of asking for a hands-on lab where you could also practice it. So please make use of these resources online and equip yourself. So with that, I have just concluded my presentation. We could possibly take up if we have some questions.
Yes, thank you, sir. We have shared the questions which are there on the chat window on the group. So you may answer those if they are pertaining to the webinar.
Okay. I could see questions first question is, what are the incentives that some hackers use? Unethical issues, is it necessary for that person? So the question is, what are the incentives, why do they do that? So that's, as I said, there are multiple reasons why they do that. There are hackers who are sponsored by states, meaning nation states, they themselves recruit hackers to target their enemies. It may be for multiple reasons. As I was citing an example, a nuclear plant was brought down in a country. The other country which didn't want that particular reactor to go live, they planned it, and then they were successful in bringing down. The day the nuclear plant was launched, they were able to bring down that plant. If further interested, right, you could just go and search for this Stuxnet. So Stuxnet was the hack tool they used to bring down the complete nuclear reactor. That's the extent to which today hackers could go. Or it could be as simple as for monetary reasons also they could do. Today, the money involved in cyber crimes are much more than that it was involved in narcotics. Earlier, people used to think trafficking, drug use to be the means where they could earn more. But today, the money that is there in cyber crimes is much more than that. And there are very evolved means, like there are cyber crime tools that are available for subscription. So meaning with your credit card, you could just go online, subscribe for a service, and then decide to bring down a server, bring down a site, or take some data out from your competition. So that is the extent to which today hackers go ahead and employ unethical means too. So there are multiple motivations. So it could be even for political reasons. So you would have heard about Anonymous. They don't do it for money, or they are not working for any nation or organization. they are just motivated by their interest. They represent certain interest, and anything that goes against them, they go ahead and attack. For example, our Supreme Court gave a verdict against peer-to-peer file sharing. Like people are able to freely download movies from different torrent websites. So Supreme Court gave a verdict saying that's not right, and those kind of downloads should be banned. They gave a directive to ISPs to ban those kind of file transfers. So Anonymous stood for free movement. So they decided, no, this is something against their thing what they stood, and they defaced our websites of our countries, highest institutions. So that is a kind of, there are different motivations why this happens. Yeah, the second question is this attack mechanism risk same with cloud deployment too. Exactly, same applies to cloud. So typically there is a misnotion when customers move to cloud, the customer's expectation or understanding or their belief is that they are delegating everything to cloud service provider. Cloud service provider will take care of everything. Actually, that is wrong. The security model in cloud is a shared security model, wherein certain portion of security service provider will ensure. For example, security is all about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. There are three tenets using around which security revolves. So availability factor is what service provider will take care. The cloud service provider will ensure availability. If his data center goes down, he'll bring up another data center where the complete data is backed up and comes live. But he won't take in charge for the data residing within your infrastructure. So he goes to the extent of ensuring availability of your services or your infrastructure. That's it. Otherwise, whatever data you have within your own cloud application server systems that you have brought up within your own VMs, he is not going to take responsibility. It's your responsibility to take care of securing the data within the cloud. The same attack mechanisms and techniques and protection also applies both for cloud deployment also. So for both on-prem data centers and cloud, the same methodology of attacking as well as protection also, right, is applicable. So same controls what I said, firewalls using which you could protect or segment your networks. So those firewalls earlier which was available for on-prem data center, today is available also on cloud. So on a cloud too, you could have the same security control. So only thing you need to take care is whatever security controls you had when the resources were on-prem, same security controls policy should ensure that the controls are rolled out in cloud also. So if you have antivirus, anti-spam engines running when you add your resource on-prem, same anti-spam antivirus engine should be there on cloud also. Only thing, you're using a different platform, that's it. Otherwise, security level should be the same, and both attack and protection mechanism remains the same. So question 3 is it okay to use Kali Linux through VirtualBox for this contest? Yes, exactly. You can get yourself familiarized with Kali Linux on a virtual platform, but for the contest, actually, complete environment is provided. You'll just get a web interface on which you'll log in. You'll get access to this lab infrastructure where everything is provided. Kali Linux, all the tools I talked about today, everything is readily available there. And there's a guide which guides you how to go about launching attacks and also preventing those attacks. So you need not bring in your own system. You should have a good system using which you have a good connectivity to internet and a browser. After that, everything is taken care. You need not prepare your Linux system for this workshop. And yeah, that's one. I think the question is twice repeated. Kali Linux. Question 3 and 4. I'll go to question number 5. What are the tools that are available in the industry to identify and protect against attack while the attack is in progress? Okay, so you have tools like I was talking about ATP. So you have a tool called sandboxing. For advanced threat protection, you have tools like Sandbox. You have tools like EDR. So those tools have a advanced detection and response mechanisms. There are tools which comes with service which will keep monitoring your systems live. Even though you have your own IT team and security team monitoring your assets, there'll also be a team from the security side also monitoring it. And if they see anything abnormal, they'll immediately intervene and they'll be able to minimize the damage. So there are, it's called advanced threat detection tools, like you can look for APTs, advanced threat prevention tools. So those tools are having the capability to detect and prevent attacks. I was talking about SIM tool, like I said we have a product called FortiSIEM that collects logs from different sources. And also you have option to subscribe to threat intelligence services. For example, there's a threat research feed which comes in saying, if you see this pattern, like a connection attempt on this port, and a file of this type, this size, matching, then it's a new attack trend that is spreading across the globe. If there's a new feed which comes in, and this 40 SIM, if sees that particular event within the organization, right, it has a response mechanism. There's a tool called SOAR, orchestration and remediation. You could automate this complete activity, where if it finds a new pattern, it will automatically trigger, go ahead and take preventive mechanisms. So SIEM along with SOAR is a technology which could also achieve this. So when an attack is in progress, it will help you intervene and then minimize the impact. Sixth question, I've got next question. Do we have any framework for attack kill chain so that we can write rule for each threat methodologies? So this NIST framework, which I said, right, is one framework which will help you protect you from these kind of threat methodologies. And there are multiple such frameworks which you could use. So NIST is one very popular one which you could make use of it. Or if you're asking about the framework, right, Metasploit, as I said, the distribution that comes in Kali Linux, that's another framework which you could write rule for all the threat methodologies. You will be able to make use of it. Okay, I'll go to question 7. What shall we do once we identify the attack? How shall we handle it? Shall we design the compromise system, or like how to tackle the things in real time? Yeah, in real time, possibly, how to handle, you would have thought through, documented it. So typically what you do is if you could afford to disconnect the system, that will be the best thing, remove it. But don't immediately format, or you can get good amount of insight by doing a forensic on the system. So based on the criticality level, the different ways of handling it. So the best is to disconnect the system, run some scanning tool. There are scanners available which will be able to make out what is the actual problem with the system, and it will be able to help you recover the system. So in a real time, typically you disconnect or isolate the system. Today there are tools, as I said, there's a tool called EDR. Even we have a product 40 EDR, which essentially, if you have it installed, can recover a system without reinstalling a system. So the worst possibility is typically whenever a machine is breached, and they recommend you to reinstall or reformat the complete data, freshly install the OS and the applications on top of it. But with this kind of new technologies like EDR, you need not reinstall the system. It will be able to repair or undo the damages caused. Like if there is a file which is installed, it will be able to uninstall the file. If there's a process running, it will be able to remove the process, identify and remove the process. So today there are technologies available which will help you even if the service is very critical. What if you're not able to disconnect? It's a very production system. For example, there's an online sale going on. It's a sale period. Your web server, there's some breach, someone is reporting. You can't afford to pull it off, because if you pull it off, you bring down the complete business. So in that scenario, you will have to manage to run the service as well, give a protection. So you have today tools which could do that. Even though your system is vulnerable, still you could have put some security controls in place, which will be able to filter out that attack vector alone and let the production or genuine traffic through it. So WAF is one such technology, web application firewall. So we have a product called 40 Web, which can be used to protect a web server. If web server is the one which is compromised or has a vulnerability, still you'll be able to run it in production by putting a security control in front of it, which will be able to filter off all the malicious activity, but let the production traffic go through. Okay, I'm just going to the next question, question 8. Suppose if we are hosting the application on a public cloud, how to monitor for security? Is there any ideas for cloud-based web application? How to do threat analysis on such application? Yeah, as I said, all the security controls, what I talked about today, you have a cloud version of it. For example, I was talking about a firewall. We have a firewall VM version of it, which could run today on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Alibaba, or whichever cloud you name it, Oracle Cloud. So there's a firewall version which could run. So firewall has inbuilt IDS, intrusion detection system. It is capable of protecting also. It could also drop attacks alone. It will let the valid traffic go through. If it sees something malicious, it could drop it. And I was talking about ATP sandboxing. Sandboxing also today is available for cloud. So you have cloud-based sandboxing. Even a SaaS model is available. You could just plainly use it as a service. And all these security controls, even 40 SIM, what I talked about, which can collect logs from different systems and correlate and then make out what is going through. Even that is also available on the cloud. So today you look at all the technology vendors have followed the industry trend, and then all the tools today there's a cloud version available. Only thing you should look for it, and you should just move away from the notion that when we move our application to cloud service provider will take care of security part. No, don't have that misconception. Just ensure that whatever he's just giving you infrastructure, a place to run your application. Whatever goes into your application goes out of it. He's not responsible. You should have proper mechanisms to protect it. Even within the cloud infrastructure, if you want to segment them, you have a production setup, you have a test pilot setup. You have to maintain them in a separate different network segments so that developers could get access to the pilot test setup where they could test their application, what they're developing, but they should not have access to your production setup. These two servers are on the same segment. You may not be able to effectively control them. So that segmentation is of much importance, where you use a firewall to segment, put production setup in one segment, and control access accordingly. So today on the cloud also, you could ensure the same level of security, and today you have tools to do that. So 4840 gate, what I referred, right, is a firewall which has the intrusion detection system, which could be rolled to protect the web application. We also have a dedicated product to protect the web application. We have FortiWeb, a WAF product, which on sign can be installed on cloud to protect your web servers. It has the IDS and DDoS kind of capability inbuilt. So question 9, what attack kill chain occur? Is it post to SDLC or during SDLC? See, SDLC is software development lifecycle. So that is the phase where an application gets developed. So this attack kill chain happens when this application goes live in production. So SDLC is about developing an application. Okay, so what you could do at SDLC is you could take care of what else could go wrong. You could look at the security angle, have all the security controls in place. For example, in attack kill chain, I was referring about SQL injection. So that is one popular attack using which hackers could breach a web server, take the data out from the backend database server through that. So in the SDLC, if they would have foreseen that our application is going to be running on a web server, and web servers are vulnerable for all these kind of known threats, like SQL injection is one of the top known threats for a web server. So during developing a web application, you could see how SQL injection goes through, what all to do. For example, there's an option called input parameter validation. So when a user is logging, given a field to input data, so SQL injection, how it happens is instead of feeding in, for example, a username password, they could put a SQL query there. So that SQL query will result in a yes or no answer, and then it could result in your data breach. So while doing an SDLC lifecycle, you could foresee that these kind of attacks are happening in the industry. So when I receive a username and password, I'll do an input validation. So I won't allow anything apart from username password, meaning I'll restrict the number of characters that are punched in, and also check the pattern of it. It should not have any kind of SQL characters or special characters. So those kind of checks you do, and if you incorporate that at the SDLC level, what you do is you help secure your application, and it will ensure that the kill chain is failing at the first stage itself, meaning at the initial stage of recon, and next stage itself it will fail. Don't let the attack go through. Also, in SDLC, what you could also do is, if there are certain default details that you're giving back, for example, when you run a web server, if you hit for a page which is not existent, typically you get an error message. So that error message should not be the default error message from the web server. For example, if you're running Apache web server, the error message from Apache web server will be like the page not found, and below, if you look at it, it will show Apache version 2.0.4. It will give all the details of the application that's running behind. So what in the SDLC you could do is you could replace all these default values. You won't you'll decide if there's an error occurring, you will intercept it. You won't allow the application to answer back. You will give a default page, or you'll refer to a page where you give very minimal info out, or you redirect him to a home page. You don't redirect him to the error page. So you could take a call. So those are the aspects you could plan in the SDLC lifecycle. So you could prevent actually. Otherwise, the kill chain happens once the application goes into production. There you don't have control. But what all weakness that could creep in, you could foresee and then plug all those holes in the SDLC lifecycle. Okay, 10th question. What was the type of attack in Big Basket data compromise? I'm not sure about this attack that has been referred here. I believe I can't comment here in this question 10. I just need to get into details. I'm not aware. Okay, I'll do the next question, question 11. That's called incident response. It contains preparation, identification, containment. Yeah, someone has answered for the question, no, which is asked earlier. Question 12 is workload is deployed on cloud. Does Fortinet Security Fabric work in sync with such deployment? If yes, how shall I integrate the fabric with cloud service provider? Okay, the question is like the security fabric which I depicted, does it go, you protect, no, give the, can we do the deployment cloud? Yes, pretty much well, and exactly, no, that is one very good use case where you could effectively use it. For example, in cloud deployment, what happens is you lose visibility of really what is getting rolled out there. Anyone can bring up a VM, anyone can give access to it. So to effectively get visibility in Fabric, I was talking about visibility, integration and automation. So in visibility, you need to know what kind of instances are running and what kind of data they are exposing to internet. So you'll be able to use the Fabric connectors to bring all the details back to your central dashboard in your on-prem where your SOC team is monitoring. For example, you have a data center from which you have a firewall running the data center. You have assets in your cloud. You could get all the asset details on your firewall populated. So if you have policy saying any traffic from a data center to your cloud should go only through an encrypted channel, the firewall policy, you could define a policy saying data from your data center to cloud will all go through. Even if someone brings up a new VM instance on your cloud, that object will be automatically populated in FortiGate. That is the power of Fortinet Security Fabric. So automatically it will get dynamically added to the policy, which takes the traffic from the data center to the cloud through an encrypted channel. So there's no change or manual intervention needed. So it automatically adapts to the changes on new infra that comes up in your cloud. Yeah, the answer is yeah, well, pretty much you could roll out the fabric for your cloud. Question 13, can you throw light on Lalpath Labs? I don't have much details on this. I won't be able to comment here. Question 14, can Forti Sandbox be used as a virus detector for ransomware virus? Exactly, that's a perfect use case. You could use Forti Sandbox to do advanced malware detection. It has a AV virus engine, and it could also be an effective tool to prevent ransomware attacks. The answer is yes, exactly. Yeah, good to know. Audience are pretty much knowledgeable, and the questions are great. I feel great answering these questions. Really, they are great questions. And next question, question 15 is NSA is for public or not? NS, yeah, the training what I said is yes, also for public. They opened up for public. Only first 2 levels was there for public earlier, but during this period, currently they are allowed public to access the complete content from NSE 1 to NSE 8. Yeah, so you could use register with your public mail ID and then get access to this. Question 16, any online open source tools available for understanding the attacks of various categories? Yeah, Kali Linux is a distribution which comes with all these tools. Most of them what I talked about, Metasploit and all the scanner tools like Nmap, all those are inbuilt in that. So I will suggest you explore Kali Linux. It comes in different formats. So you could install a Kali Linux in a VM on your own laptop, desktop, and then explore. So you just go ahead exploring Kali Linux. That's what I will recommend. So if you're participating in the workshop, you will get access to it. There also, you will get a chance to use it. So hacking of EVM, is it true? So I can't comment here. It has no different connotation. I'll go to the next question, 18. How much time is required? So, okay, hacking of EVM, on one aspect, what I said, even when I observed when I started, today, nothing in the world today, is there that could be, not breached. So one popular saying goes, if you have to really protect your data, just put it in a trunk box and then, bury it 30-40 feet deep below on the earth, put it in a concrete trench and then bury it. That's how you could see when you go to get into that mode, right? The totally data is unusable. So today, what is that? As a security professional, what we could do is we could only minimize the risk. No one now can ensure 100% protection. We are seeing very big breaches. NSA being breached, FB networks being breached. Lot of tools right today used for ransomware attacks were the tools used by FBI, for their own investigations. Even those tools, FBI themselves are not able to protect. So we are talking about leading agencies across the globe, and we have seen people breaching all these networks which are we are assuming that they are all safe. So the approach what we should take is, see, anything could be hacked today. We need to have enough of security measures and controls put around them based on the criticality. So that is a message I will like to leave here today. So any resource or any asset that you're trying to protect, assume that it can be breached. So even Gartner, what they say is, when you approach or a network or design a solution for network, start with the assumption that it's already breached. That is the state of network that we have today. So you should have a mindset that the network is already breached. How do I recover? How do I get a visibility into what is going on, and how do I contain it? That should be our approach. Okay. Next question is, how much time is required to finish all the training from stage 1 to 8? See, if you're starting from scratch, right, it may take year or more than that actually. But each stage, see, one and two is simple. We could do it within a week. It's more of an awareness program. I think one is hardly take 1 or 2 hours. You just attend some CBT, run through some video, understand the concept that they briefed, and then take a quiz. You get certified. And for 2, you may take 3-4 hours for NSE level 2. These 2, I'll suggest you do it within 2-3 days or within a week's time max. You get a certificate from Fortinet signed by our CEO. So it's a prestigious thing. You could have just put in your resume as a starter, So it differentiates you from a regular participant. It gives you, identifies that you have basics of network security understanding. And from level 4 onwards is what is hands-on. Level 3 is more of a sales training that you could skip. Level 4 is a hands-on. For each level, I will suggest if you it's a 30 to 40 hour training content for each level. Maybe it may take a month's time if you're a student or a fresher who will start. For each level, it may take a month's time. In a year, you could practically do that. But as you go up the layer, right, 4 is slightly entry level, 5 is slightly tougher than 4. So each level slightly builds on the complexity. Level 8 is you need to be a really seasoned architect with good amount of experience, 8-10 years experience. So I will suggest you explore at least level 6. Level 7 is the advanced training. So that you could continuous in education. So at least till level 6 you could target on your own. Okay, last question. Does Fortinet offer any built-in incident reporting tools or API provisions to integrate to any IR platform? Yeah, all our technology, all our products that we have, all the solutions comes with incident reporting and API. You could customize it. If you have your own platform or a framework, if you want certain feeds from our solution, or if you want some response actions, you could always do that. You could make a function call, API function call to our technology to fetch some data. Like you want to get some details, like what are the recent attacks, the IPs involved. You could fetch it. Or if you want a FortiGate to make a API call, something happened, like FortiGate detected some malicious or endpoint with a malicious activity, or breach on it, or malicious code in it. You want FortiGate to make an API call to make some changes to your infrastructure. That's also possible. So it pretty much integrates to your incident response platform. It could be simple as a service desk, or it could be a SIEM, or a SOAR platform that you have built. So it completely integrates. We have our own solution which does that as well. If it's a third-party product, also we do that. Or even if it's your own homegrown product, you pretty much can leverage this API capability built in. And yeah, I think that's all. Questions. If there are any new questions, you could say, or we could just conclude. Shika, I'm done with the clarification.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I think we have covered all the questions successfully. Thanks a lot, sir, for facilitating today's session and for sharing your knowledge. I'm sure the participants would have